Welcome to You're on Mute. Today we're diving into cybersecurity awareness training with James Rocker, CEO of Nerds That Care. James, let's start with the basics. Why is cybersecurity awareness training important?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me here. Appreciate it. Cybersecurity awareness training is one of the most important topics, and obviously we're going to dive into that today. But it's important because I feel that some of the uh, weaknesses of a company are start right there with their people. So if you find that they're uneducated and they don't have the proper training, it really could be a major threat to your organization. So cybersecurity awareness training is super important to have. Doesn't matter what type of company you are now in today's game.
Fantastic. All right, so let's set the stage a little bit here. What does one-time training look like for a company who's interested in these sort of services?
Well, listen, I don't really recommend a one-time training. I do recommend an ongoing training. But if you're going to do a one-time training, you want to be efficient with it. You want to get everybody, hopping on either like a video or doing a live in person. And you really want to lay out the fundamentals of some of the threats that exist out there and what people are really falling for when it comes to phishing emails, smishing text messages, even phishing or voice solicitation type phone calls that we're getting today, right? And having the proper, security protection in place is something that's really, really important to have, again, across today's landscape, no matter if you're a law firm, an auto dealership, a title company, a CPA firm, a service-based business, and so on.
Wonderful. So it sounds to me like you are going to be on the side of ongoing training on a regular basis, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike, because, things are getting more sophisticated out there. The bad guys, the bad actors are coming up with new ways to breach those types of security barriers. You look at what happened with the MGM attack recently, and that was a social engineering attack. So it's not always about phishing, even though about 90% of breaches come from a phishing email. This in that case, it was about social engineering and getting through their help desk and really having finding a weakness there in that organization. So, constant ongoing cyber training for, everyone out there is super important.
Great. Well, I thought there might be more of a debate here, but it sounds like we're actually on the favor of the ongoing cybersecurity training. Let me jump ahead here and talk about some resources that I need to be allocated when it comes to the training that's continuous, right? Do companies have to outlay a lot of resources to make sure this is done effectively?
Well, my recommendation, Mike, would be to hire a third-party firm, such as like an MSP or a cybersecurity firm, which are labeled now as MSSPs, right? If you have a in-house IT department, essentially, offshoring or outsourcing those resources to a company like that is certainly preferred. You want that third party view. You want a company that's doing it all the time, and you want to deal with a professional organization that's really on top of their own security, of course, such as Nerds That Care. But, so allocating those resources through an outsourced company is certainly preferred, and this will keep your IT department, let's say, focused on what they should be doing on a daily basis, right? And if you are a smaller organization that doesn't have your own IT department, then certainly you should be leaning on your MSP or your outsourced situation, again, like us, like others out there, to handle this type of service or solution for you.
Great. So sometimes I hear companies say training is really boring, and maybe that's why they want to move to a one-time training, get it over and done with. How does Nerds That Care help make training for the end user more engaging?
Yeah, so we really research a lot of the videos that, some of the training materials, the computer-based training materials beforehand. We really try not to pick the ones that create the snooze fest. We really like to focus on the ones that are highly engaging, for your employees, for our customers. So we really do a really great job of kind of vetting out that material ahead of time, and we also create it relevant to your type of industry. So in that case, we're not sending financial based, training to someone that's not in that industry per se. But obviously, most companies have an accounting department, so we'll tailor trainings around those types of departments and such for those types of industries.
Wonderful. Well, listen, I think everyone was definitely concerned. You said it earlier before about MGM. I know a lot of people out there are engaged in online betting these days with FanDuel and DraftKings and so on and so forth. I know MGM has its own sports book. Should we be concerned about those products? And do you think that another ransomware attack is possible for a company like MGM?
Yeah, listen, it's not about if, right? It's about when it happens, and being prepared to deal with those types of attacks. And I'm not sure that MGM really disclosed everything that really happened, rightfully so. There's an insurance and a protection element there that, of course, they need to protect from a PR standpoint, right? But you can bet that when you have a ransomware breach, you are in fact having your data exfiltrated. So most likely anything that was part of that breach, Mike, was certainly compromised at this time. So yeah, it's always a concern. What can the individual do to help protect themselves is really what you're asking, and that's having multi-factor authentication, on all your most frequently used apps, whether it's social media, whether it's that gambling platform that you mentioned, anything that can have multi-factor. We also consider it 2FA or MFA, right? And I think that if it doesn't have the ability to turn on, then you should be super skeptical about using
Hmm.
that app or that software, for example. Of course, banking, email, Facebook, Instagram, all those types of apps should automatically be turned on. So if you're listening to this and you don't have that stuff turned on, go ahead and take some time to either get help or figure out how to turn that stuff on. LinkedIn's a big one now too, so turn it on your LinkedIn. Very, very important stuff.
Great, great stuff, James. And one last question here. I was curious. I went to a trade show recently, conference. They're talking about the human firewall aspect. Can you explain to the end users what exactly is the human firewall aspect and how, the human interaction can play the biggest issue as it relates to having a breach?
Yeah, sure, Mike. So it's a couple of things, right? It's of course it's you, it's the human, but it's about being skeptical about everything that you do, everywhere you go, right? So don't leave your cell phone around, don't leave your access card around. I did a talk recently at one of our networking groups, and I brought in all our hacking tools, and I showed the group of people there how easy it is to be fooled, whether it's a thumb drive, whether it's a device like a Flipper Zero, which can burn an access card and then gain entryway into your office or into a secured entry, a secured entrance, right? So it's about being diligent. It's about being knowledgeable that these things even exist. I showed the group of people that I was with, and I told them how inexpensive the tools that I was showing them was, and people couldn't even believe it. And they asked me, "Why do you have these tools?" And I said, "It's to educate our people, it's to educate our team, and it's to show individuals that we closely work with how easy it is to have these devices." And of course, if I have these devices, well, you can imagine that other people have these devices and they're going to use it for malicious intent, right, and activity. So it's super important to just be super skeptical, right? If you always think it's a scam, it always is, and then you see it all the time. People ask their IT department, "Is this spam? Is this a scam? Is this fake?" You already know it is, so I'm not sure why you're asking anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, great. So to wrap it up, if there's one takeaway for our listeners today, James, what should it be?
Yeah, appreciate that, Mike. Thanks so much, of course, for having me here today. And, we're doing a webinar at the end of the month on Halloween where we're going to be doing a one-time cybersecurity awareness training. And I think that would be a great start for everyone to hop into that. So check it out, look for the invites, don't miss it, and get that cybersecurity awareness training installed in your firm, your company, your business as soon as possible.
Thanks again for joining the Rocker Brothers on You're on Mute. Be sure to catch our webinar, Boosting Cybersecurity Resilience. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening.